Welcome to AR Tales. Today's story is about this sentence. She said she could never marry a man who lives in motel. As you listen, think about what you would do if you heard your partner talk about you like that when they thought you were not listening. My name is Cole. I am 34, an owner-operator truck driver running long-haul freight across the Midwest and Pacific Northwest under my own company, Liberty Line Trucking. I own my rig outright, manage my own LLC, and I have been doing this for almost 8 years. I make decent money. Not hedge fund money, but enough to live comfortably and reinvest in my business. I love what I do. The open road clears my head. I keep a clean rig, I journal my routes, and I take pride in the work. For me, trucking is not a fallback, it is a choice. About a year ago, I met Emily at a rest stop off Interstate 80. She was on a road trip with friends. We started talking while they were grabbing snacks. She was 29, a project manager for a marketing agency in Chicago, with this quick, excited way of talking about campaigns and travel. She said she loved that I had real stories to tell and that I was not chasing some corporate ladder. She liked that I lived on the road. At least, that is what she said. We started dating long distance. Every few weeks I would plan a route that put me near Chicago. We would grab dinner, spend a night together between runs. She posted pictures of us on Instagram with captions about adventure and authenticity. But even then, I never quite fit into her world. Her social circle was full of marketing executives and consultants who called themselves digital nomads but worked from coffee shops with strong Wi-Fi. They joked about travel and freedom, but it was all slideshows and strategy decks. I was the one who actually lived that freedom. I tried to fit in. I showed up to her events. I smiled through conversations about brand funnels and engagement metrics. I kept quiet when they made jokes about truck stops. This was the first small red flag. When people make jokes about your entire world and you are expected to laugh along, something is off. Last month, Emily invited me to her parents' house for dinner. It was the first time I would meet them. Her mom, Donna, is an HR director, polished and sharp. Her dad, Bill, is a financial advisor, quiet but very aware of class and status. They live in Naperville, one of those wealthy suburbs where every lawn looks like it is in a catalog and everyone drives a German sedan. Dinner went fine at first. We talked about routes, logistics, fuel costs. Bill seemed mildly interested in the business side. Donna smiled politely but kept turning the conversation back to Emily's career and promotions. After dessert, Emily got a FaceTime call from her college friend Claire, who had just gotten engaged. Emily and her mom went into the living room to answer. I went to the hallway closet to grab my jacket. That is when I heard it. The call was on speaker. Claire asked if I was a trucker. Emily laughed and said, "Yes," and then added, "Do not worry though. I am not marrying a guy who lives in motel. He is just a story for now." Her mom laughed softly and said, "Good, you have worked too hard to end up in a sleeper cab." I stood there in the hallway holding my jacket. The television in the background was playing some renovation show. The house was warm. I did not feel angry yet. I felt cold. It was not just what she said. It was how casual it was. Like this was an inside joke. Like my life, my work, my future were props in a story she would grow out of. I put the jacket back in the closet, walked quietly out the front door, got in my truck and left. No goodbye, no scene. Just gone. I drove to a pilot travel center off Interstate 55 and parked. Other drivers were filling out logs or turning in for the night. I stayed in the cab for over an hour, staring at the dashboard. This is the moment a lot of people ignore in their own lives. When someone shows you how they talk about you, when they think you are not listening, and you try to convince yourself it is not that bad. I started my next route early. Over the next few days, I made some quiet changes. I removed Emily as my emergency contact on my insurance. I canceled our planned July trip to Nashville. I packed her sunglasses, a photo, and a keychain that said my favorite co-pilot into a box and mailed them back to her. No note, Then the text started. Why did you leave without saying goodbye? Did I do something? Cole, please call me. 2 days later, I finally answered with one text. You said enough. She replied immediately, asking what I meant. I did not answer. By then, I was fueling outside Omaha, watching numbers tick up on the pump and replaying the words, "He is just a story for now," in my head. What stayed with me was not only her words. It was the feeling that I had been part of a performance. To my face, I was the brave, free, adventurous trucker. In her private world, I was a phase she assumed she would outgrow. Part of me wondered if I overreacted by walking out. Part of me knew that once you hear what someone really thinks, you cannot unhear it. 3 days after I left, Emily's panic started to show. Her messages went from confused to defensive to apologetic. She said her mom did not mean it. They were joking. I misunderstood. I stayed silent. I was running Denver to Sacramento and needed my head clear. There are times when not replying is not about making a point. It is about protecting your sanity. Then Donna called. Her name popped up while I was fueling outside Reno. I almost sent it to voicemail, but curiosity won. She opened with, "Cole, Emily is a wreck. You misunderstood. You know how girls talk." I let her finish. Then I said, "Ma'am, I heard exactly how she talks, and you agreed." There was a pause while she searched for another angle. She said Emily was stressed at work. She said people say things they do not mean. She said I should not take it personally. I told her it was personal because it was about me, and I hung up. About a week later, I got an email from Bill. It was carefully written, like he had edited it a few times. He said he thought I overreacted, but that Emily admired my work ethic. Then he wrote one line that stuck with me. "Marriage between two lifestyles like yours rarely works. I think you did the mature thing by stepping back." He was not mad that I left. He was relieved. He was essentially saying, "Thank you for taking yourself out of the running before things went further." I screenshotted the email and saved it, not out of spite, but as proof for myself that I was not imagining their attitude. After that, I threw myself into work. I picked up extra routes and pushed longer hours. In my handwritten log where I track miles and maintenance, I added a new line. Miles since clarity, 2870. Every completed route, I updated it. It became my way of measuring distance from that hallway in Naperville. With the extra focus, I started thinking about something I had been putting off: expanding Liberty Line. I was a one-man operation hitting a ceiling. There were routes I could not take because I was already booked, contracts I could not bid on because I did not have enough capacity. My heart was bruised, but my business did not have to be. I started looking into buying a second rig and hiring another driver. One night, at a small diner attached to a rest stop in Wyoming, I sat at the counter with coffee. The place was almost empty. The waitress, Hannah, looked at the Liberty Line logo on my jacket and said, "You are Liberty Line. My brother follows your trucking blog. He says you have built a good name." I blinked. I had started that blog years earlier to share routes and tips with other drivers. I never thought anyone outside a small circle cared. Hannah asked if her brother should go for his CDL. We talked during her break. I told her the hard parts and the good parts. It was the first real conversation I had had in weeks where I did not feel like I had to defend my job. Before I left, she said, "People respect what you do because you do it well. Do not let anyone make you feel small for that." That stuck with me for the next 100 miles. I had let Emily and her family shrink me down in my own mind. But I was running a real business. I owned my rig. I had clients who trusted me. In my world, that meant something. Meanwhile, Emily kept trying to reach me, voicemails, long texts, apologies. She said she made a mistake. She wanted to talk. She wanted to fix it. Around that time, a mutual acquaintance messaged me. He worked with Emily and had seen my trucking account. He said Emily had been telling people at her office that I ghosted her after she joked about my job requiring too much travel, and that I was just too distant to make it work. I replied, "I travel for a living. I guess that is the punchline." He liked the message. I think he understood. I thought about clearing my name publicly, but honestly, What would that do? People who believed her version would not suddenly switch sides because I posted screenshots. Sometimes the most powerful move is refusing to fight for a story someone already decided to tell. So I kept building. I reached out to other drivers, guys who wanted to go independent but did not have the capital. I offered them a partnership structure. Drive for Liberty Line, keep a percentage of the haul, and have a clear path to owning their own trucks. One driver, Ty, signed on quickly. Within 2 weeks, I bought a second rig. He was on the road under the Liberty Line name. Suddenly, I could take contracts I used to turn down. I could bid on higher value routes. Liberty Line was no longer just me in one truck. It was the start of a small fleet. I still thought about Emily sometimes. Late at night when the highway was empty and the sky was clear, I replayed that sentence. He is just a story for now. Every time I did, I also heard her mom's soft laugh and Bill's line about my lifestyle not working. That combination reminded me why I walked out. Not just because I was hurt, but because I had finally seen the truth of how they saw me. A couple of weeks later, one of Emily's coworkers reached out again. He let me know she was telling people I had disappeared without explanation. I stayed quiet. Then something unexpected happened. About a month after I walked out, Bill called again. His voice was different this time, less sure. His firm had a client who needed help moving specialized medical equipment across the country. Temperature-controlled transport, tight deadlines, high risk. The client had asked around in industry groups and kept hearing about Liberty Line. "Small world," Bill said. "Our client mentioned your company. I had no idea you had grown this much. You would be perfect for this contract. Premium rates for the right operator." I said, "You can tell them to submit a request through my website like anyone else." Then I hung up. I felt calm after that call. Not smug, just clear. He wanted my reliability now that it helped him at work, but I did not owe him a back door into my business. 2 days later, the client contacted me directly. We negotiated terms. I submitted a bid and got the contract. It was one of the biggest jobs I had taken on. That one haul led to 3 more medical logistics contracts in the next 2 months. Liberty Line was thriving. Around this time, Ty convinced me to attend a truck expo in Kansas City. Normally, I would have skipped it. He said it would be good for networking and getting my mind off things. So I went. I was walking through rows of GPS systems and fleet software demos when I saw her. Emily, standing near the entrance in designer sneakers, holding a coffee like a shield. She looked nervous and I knew why she was there. She had seen my expo posts and decided to show up. For a second, I thought about ducking away. Then I decided to let it happen. I walked over. She started talking before I could say a word. "Cole, I am so sorry, I was stupid. My mom was pressuring me about settling down and I said what I thought she wanted to hear. I did not mean it." I looked at her for a long moment. "You were not pressured," I said. "You were honest in private." She shook her head. "I want to fix this. I miss you." "You cannot patch a blown tire with PR," I said. She started to cry. For a second, I felt bad. Then I remembered her mother's laugh, the email from her father, and the way she had spun me as the insecure one on social media. Her apology was not about seeing me differently. It was about needing to feel like she had done her part. I walked away. Ty was waiting near some truck displays. He said, "You are going to be in her group chat for weeks." I said, "My routes do not have Wi-Fi anyway." Over the next months, contracts kept coming. I hired another driver and bought a third rig. Now I was doing less driving and more managing. It was overwhelming, but it felt right. I was building something that did not depend on anyone's approval but my own. One afternoon, while updating the blog with photos of the new trucks, I got a message from Hannah, the waitress from Wyoming. She had found the blog again through her brother and had been following the updates. She said she was proud of how far Liberty Line had come. Her brother had gotten his CDL and was starting his first route. She thanked me for the advice. We started messaging regularly, just simple updates at first. She had moved into logistics coordination for a regional freight brokerage, connecting drivers with loads and negotiating rates. She understood the industry from the inside. We talked about schedules, weather, broker issues, and the small frustrations only people in the field really get. The conversations were easy, no performance, no filter. Eventually, I asked if she wanted dinner the next time my route brought me through Wyoming. She said yes. That dinner led to another, then another. No social media posts, no relationship soft launch, no trying to prove anything to anyone. Just two people respecting each other's work and finding time when they could. Liberty Line kept growing. The medical logistics work expanded. We started looking into refrigerated transport for more opportunities. The one-man operation became a 5-truck outfit with 4 other drivers on an owner-operator track. They had skin in the game, so they cared about the work. Last quarter, Liberty Line cleared more revenue than my first 3 years combined. I bought a small house outside Kansas City with a big garage where I could work on rigs. It was the first property I ever owned. Signing those papers felt better than any polite smile at a dinner table. At some point, I decided I wanted my jacket back. It sounds small, but it mattered. I texted Emily and asked if I could pick it up. She said yes and gave a time when she would not be home. Her roommate handed it to me at the door. It still smelled faintly like motor oil and expensive candles from that house. I hung it in my own closet. Sometimes I look at it as a reminder, not of her, but of the moment I chose myself. The moment I decided I would rather drive away than stay in a room where my life was a punchline. Emily and I have not spoken since the expo. I heard her agency lost a big account after internal drama and that she moved to a smaller firm with a pay cut. Donna retired early after a corporate merger downsized her company. I do not take joy in any of that. Their careers are theirs to manage, but it did remind me of something. The way they looked down on me was never about my job. It was about their own fear of losing status. Their version of success turned out to be a lot more fragile than they made mine sound. Hannah and I are still together. It has been almost 10 months now. It is the healthiest relationship I have ever had. She knows this life. She does not glamorize it. She does not insult it. She just understands it. She has met Ty and the other drivers. They like her. She brings coffee to the yard when she is in town and talks shop like she has been part of the operation for years. Months ago, her company started looking for a reliable carrier for long-term contracts. She mentioned Liberty Line, but everything went through regular bidding. We submitted our offer like everyone else. We got the deal. It became our biggest contract yet and let me plan for a proper dispatch office and maintenance facility instead of running everything out of my house and a rented garage. Recently, at an industry mixer in Omaha, I ran into Bill. He was there with a client talking logistics. He saw my name on a badge and recognized the company. He walked over and held out his hand. "Cole, good to see you. I have been hearing your name a lot in logistics circles. You have done well for yourself." I shook his hand. "Thanks, business has been good." He hesitated. "I owe you an apology," he said. "I made assumptions about you that were not fair." I nodded. "I appreciate that." Then I excused myself and moved on. I did not need his apology. I did not need him to admit he was wrong. What I needed I already had, a business I am proud of and a relationship that feels honest. That night, I posted on the Liberty Line blog for the first time in months. I wrote about growth, risk, and building something from scratch. I did not mention Emily or her parents. I did not bring up what they said. I ended the post with this. She said she could never marry a man who lives in motel. I own 2 now. One is on wheels. One is in my name. Turns out dignity travels farther than approval. The responses poured in from other drivers and small business owners. They shared stories about being underestimated, about partners and families who did not understand their work, about walking away from people who only saw what they did, not who they were. That meant more than any apology from people who had decided I did not measure up. I learned something simple this year. Respect is not something you negotiate. It is there or it is not. Walking away from a situation that makes you feel small is not dramatic. It is self-respect. People who see your value do not have to be convinced. They just show you, quietly, over and over, that they get it. I still drive some routes, even though I could stay home and just manage. Something about the hum of the engine and the long stretch of highway reminds me why I chose this life in the first place. Not for anyone's approval, not to prove anyone wrong, just because I love the work. Lesson 1. When someone makes a joke about your life and future in private, believe that version of them more than the polished version they show in public. Lesson 2. If a partner treats you like a temporary story instead of a real option, leaving is not overreacting. It is accepting the truth they just gave you. Lesson 3. You do not have to stay in rooms where your work, values, or lifestyle are treated as less than. Respect is a baseline, not a reward. Lesson 4. Silence can be a boundary. You do not owe endless explanations or public arguments to people who already decided your side does not matter. Lesson 5. Real revenge is not about making someone regret losing you. It is about building a life where their opinion no longer has weight. Lesson 6. People who truly understand your world do not ask you to shrink yourself to fit theirs. They make space for you as you are. What would you have done if you heard a partner tell their friend you were just a story for now? Would you have confronted her in that hallway, or walked out the way I did and let her actions speak for themselves?